As I said in the earlier video, Roosevelt prefers regulation rather than antitrust. He'd rather leave the trusts alone, but he wants to make sure that they are well regulated. Despite this preference, Roosevelt is going to launch numerous antitrust actions. For example, in 1902, he begins what's known as the Northern Securities case. What does this do? What is this company? It's a holding company that controls the railroads between Chicago and Seattle. It's controlled slash owned by J.P. Morgan. And this is an extremely fast legal action. It takes 2 years and the government wins. Roosevelt is going to launch 43 antitrust actions, including one against Standard Oil. And he's going to get a nickname out of this. It's going to be called Trust Buster. Now, with what we just talked about? What's he doing? Why is he doing this? What's the point? The point is he's sending a big message to big business: accept regulation, or here comes antitrust. The public loved this, and with the public behind the presidency, there's even more power for the president, for TR, and he loved that. So he used antitrust to make big business accept regulation. In 1903, Congress is going to create within the Department of Commerce a corporation known as the Bureau of Corporations. They have no regulatory power whatsoever, but it is an important step towards regulation. It's an information gathering agency. Their job is to collect information on big businesses in order to assist the Roosevelt administration in regulating big business. In other words, if you're going to regulate a business, you want to know what's going on within the business world. In 1902, Roosevelt is also going to have to deal with the strike, an anthracite coal strike. Miners in anthracite coal mines are going to strike. Now, anthracite coal was used to heat your home. Generally speaking, in all strikes before this, the government came down on the management side. So the management is actually going to call on the Roosevelt administration to do something. And he did. But he did something that the mine owners did not expect. Roosevelt called a conference between the two, the owners and the miners. And the mine owners and the labor did not even say a word to one another, right? And Roosevelt's enraged. He says, "Do you know how hard they are making it on us who are trying to stop socialism?" The owners called on Roosevelt to send in the troops to make the workers go back to work. Roosevelt does send in the troops, but does it in a different way. He sends 10,000 troops into the mines to take them over and work and run them for the owners. It's a total reversal of what the owners wanted. At this point, the coal owners, who were primarily owned by J.P. Morgan, are forced to settle with the mine workers. So Roosevelt is different in this regard. This is the first time in terms of arbitration, the government stepping in and not siding with the government, not siding with the management at first. So Roosevelt runs in 1904, and he's going to call himself, declare that he is for the square deal. You had to listen to him, or at least take him seriously, because he's different up to this point. The Democrats are going to nominate Alton Parker. Don't worry, you're never going to hear about him again. And Roosevelt gets 56% of the popular vote, the largest margin of victory since Andrew Jackson. He's very popular, and he's going to use that popularity to push progressivism even harder. But he makes one big mistake. He says that he's not going to run again for office, at least not in 1908. We're going to see how this is going to come and bite him on the rear end later. So in 1905, at the beginning of his second term, he is going to push hard for reform. And there's several reasons for this. One is because of the fact that he's becoming more progressive-minded himself. So he's going, particularly as he's serving out the remainder of McKinley's term. The second reason is because people in his own office were becoming progressive as well. He's a progressive Republican who was very active against the railroad abuses. Furthermore, Roosevelt was afraid of the socialist movement in this country. The Socialist Party had appeared in 1901, ran Eugene V. Debs for presidency in 1904, and Debs actually got 400,000 votes in this election, which is not much in the grand scheme of things, but this was the most that the Socialists ever had gotten up to that point. So they could use this to say, yes, we're out there and we're growing. So Roosevelt saw that the only answer to stop the socialists was to reform some of the abuses that the socialists were using as a rallying cry, i.e., take the rug out from underneath them.